for clicking onto this video. We're going to be trying a whole load of different material in one video today. We are looking at various different checkmating patterns, drills to train them. So you'll find a 2-bishop checkmate, bishop and knight checkmate, checkmating with a queen against a bishop, a queen against a knight, and then we're going to do some puzzles all around checkmates. So that was just a single rook checkmate. Let's do the queen against the bishop. I haven't drilled this one a lot, but I understand that you pretty much just ignore the bishop and you just keep on the other colour complex. So we're going to slowly drive the king backwards, but we're going to stay on the light squares. So this, I'll be able to bring my king closer. We're going to come to here. Just now making sure that we're not stalemating at any point. Maybe I can bring my queen in, and that's possibly something. So here's the checkmate square. Let's just, we can just take and then give the checkmate wherever we want, really. There's three options. Yeah, here's the only immediate mate. Okay, so that was against the bishop. Let's try it against the knight. In this situation, we're predominantly trying to avoid forks. So again, if we can keep the king and queen on opposite colour complex, that will help. That will be a quick way of ensuring. So for example, I can't move here because this leads to a draw. I go here for now. Now it is safe to move here, but I'm just having to be particularly careful about doing so. Where can we go next? Can't go here. Can we go this way? We're on a different colour at this point. Yeah, okay. So again, if I step here, are we forkable? Yes, we are, so we're not going to do that. I can move on to dark square at this point. That's a safe choice. Okay, so that is a check, but it's not a fork. And then if I move to this square, I think because I'm diagonal to the knight, we're okay. And now maybe here. Again, I'm on opposite colour to the king, so that's reasonably safe. Even just walking here, although it's safe in this situation, it puts us on the same colour and in a forking configuration. So the king is moving back towards this corner. I'm not quite sure where I'm driving it. I might need to move the king this way to get in, but that's not a great position. Not forkable here. Again here. Looks risky. I'm just making sure that's not immediately forkable. So, okay, going here. Again, if I go here, this is a forking pattern, but they can't come to this square. This is a very risky move. You see a fork. We're just drilling this to practice not getting caught out by all of these ideas. And their king has pretty much escaped my net. Probably because I brought my king to the edge of the board. Okay, so we give a check. We're going to try and get back out of this. Here is a risky square. It's forkable pattern with the queen, but it's not a fork immediately. Here again is forkable, but the knight can't access these squares, so I might get a check, but we're not at too much risk. I can't bring my queen to either of these squares. I'm just going here because it's a check. And then I can come in and we're cutting off the king a bit. Just checking I'm on the opposite colour to my king. Okay, now the king might want to try and get out this way. I don't want that to happen. I'm just going to use my king to block this square. Not making progress here. Not making progress at all. If I step here, am I getting forked? I don't think I am. Again, here is a slightly risky square, but we will do it on this occasion because I'm checking for forks. While the two were on the same colour in this configuration, that's risky. Let's try here. Okay. It's a check. What happens from here? Just finding it hard to make progress. Let's go to this square where I can now maybe get this king tied up a bit. Okay, this is a very dangerous square. Same this way, and these squares are blocked immediately, so I can't make much progress here. I know there's a way, just unable to find it. Okay, this might be good. What about here? Is that a fork? So we've finally split the king and the knight, and I'm just checking. This is a winning move. I'm not going to end up in a stalemate when I take the knight. Okay. And checkmate. So you can see for me at 1400, approaching 1400 elo, this is a great drill to do. It took some thinking, it took some time. That was the one we finished earlier. Okay, so let's try two bishops checkmate. We're going to do this quite methodically. We were cutting off these two diagonals. Now we're going to move in and cut off this diagonal, push the king back. That's fine. I'm going to just play a waiting move back this way. I still want to stop the king coming this way, so we want to keep these two diagonals and just wait for the king to move back, and then I can make some progress with my king this way. Okay, now coming in here, I've moved from these two diagonals. I'm going to move up to having this diagonal under control. Now I'm going to move up to having this diagonal under control. Move up to having this diagonal. And then I'm just going to hold for a moment, bring my king to this. This is the final position for my king. That's where I'm going to get the checkmate. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves until mate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not that move to start with. 1, 2, the waiting move. 3, 4, 5. So those last 5 moves I could have pre-moved. I showed you them. You can look back and see I understood that final finish because I've drilled it so many times. Let's just go back through to there. So this is not a check, but it forces the king to one square. This is not a check, but it forces the king to the corner. Then from that position, if I was to sort of try and cut down one diagonal, this is a stalemate. So we played a waiting move to allow the king back one, but we were still covering all of this. And then it was check to the corner and the final checkmate. Bishop and knight checkmate is by far harder than the two bishops. That said, I will point out here that there's also the queen versus rook checkmate, which I rank harder still. the moment we're just pushing the king back to a light squared corner. I'm not expecting a checkmate. All I'm doing at this point is I get really close. I'm just checking that I'm not causing a stalemate. So I've got to make sure that we've got a free square somewhere. Right. Now we want to push the king out of this corner. So I've blocked that square in the corner. I've made sure I've got my knight here. The knight is going to follow this pattern. You'll see it called the W. On the side of the board it looks a bit different, but you can imagine that being a W. It doesn't look so nice when you draw it with these arrows, but as this you can see the pattern the knight's going to make until we capture the king into the dark squared corner. We need it as dark squared corner because we've got a dark squared bishop. So stopping the king's got these squares, the knight's got the light squared, and the dark square bishop has got this square. We want the king to move, so I just need to keep control of the same squares. We're just going to make a delaying move and then bring in closer and push the king further out. Okay, the king's trying to run, the knight's controlling this square. You'll see the king is going to start running this way, and this is the hardest move and one that you have to know pretty much. The knight's covering these squares and the bishop is going to come back and stop the king from running further. So he's still trying to come out this way. We can't let up on this diagonal, but now he's gone back, I can come in closer. So the dark square bishop is going to hold these squares and the knight is covering here. Now we've got the king covering these squares, the knight's covering here, and the bishop is still keeping this trap in place. If I move out now, I suspect we'll get... Okay, I think I've seen I can cover this with the dark square bishop and the king. So we're going to go this way. Now I've got a dilemma because I really want to get my knight here, but I can't do it yet. So I want to bring my king here to defend it, but then my king stops defending this square. So it is another case for a waiting move. And now I'm free to move my knight here because by the time the king gets to it, I can defend, and my king and my knight have completely boxed in their king. My bishop can take one step more control. This is fine, so now the king has these squares, the knight has this square. I need to bring my bishop to stop and escape. And now that my bishop's got this square and my king has these squares, my knight is free to leave. Ultimately, the knight needs to cover this square, which it will do from one of these squares. Let's draw that the other way, which it will do from one of these squares. And the best place for my knight to access either of those squares is from here. So we'll go there. We're then going to avoid a stalemate by just letting the king step back out, but still controlling this square with our bishop. I can't go this way now because that will release the king, so we're going to give check and mate. That is the knight and bishop checkmate. So I've just set my custom puzzles. Although I'm 1400 rated, I find that my puzzle rating is higher. Just to make this maybe some that I don't take too long on, let's go for 1900 as the top end range. I've picked all the different themes that are related to checkmates, basic checkmates, fastest checkmates, mating nets, mating 3, scholars smothered, bishop checkmates, rook checkmates. So let's see what it comes up with for some checkmates. This looks like a smothered mate immediately. I might be wrong. Let's see what we've got. So to have a smothered, yeah, maybe not a smothered mate, okay. Advanced checkmates. White to move, so the reason I was getting this wrong is because I was looking at where the black pieces could come in. White to move, I think it's going to be 1, 2, 3. So that this move forces, the only legal move, drags the king into the corner. This move, because the pawn's still here, is a forced king coming to this square, and then they don't have cover here. So that is my answer. I think it's the fastest checkmate in the position. You see I solved the full puzzle before committing the moves. That's my principle usually. I think this is going to be the first move. I can now see that there's a block, and then I recognise this pattern, which will, with the queen is pinning the rook, and this check forces the king away. So checkmate. So again, it's a mate in 3. The queen being on the dark squares can't get involved in the defence this way. And again, a mate in 3 that was solved in full before I clicked the first move. Okay, we've got a queen looking down this way, but also this way. So maybe we've got this, and this would be a threat. That would be checkmate if they move the king either this way, or they can't move that way, or this way. So that's the threat. Therefore they have to take. Then I can take, and this threat is renewed. Okay, so it's going to be mate in 3 again, and it was fully solved before I played the first move. Yeah, pretty happy with those. I'm hoping to set up a weekly schedule of different videos on each day of the week. So we'll have games, we'll have puzzles, we'll have end game drills like pawn promotions, we'll have different tactics, different material throughout the week. So if you've got any ideas and want me to include something that you've not seen on other channels, let me know, and I'll see if that fits into what I usually train and how I can present that, like openings and things. Thank you.